Hey, welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to go over a topic I've been thinking about for a little while. I've seen a lot of videos out there where people talk about, what lures to use in the summer, or the fall or the spring. But I wanted to get a little more specific than that. I wanted to talk about what lures to use at different water temperatures. And for this video, I'm going to focus on the fall and winter time period here in the Northeast. I'm in Maine, so these definitely apply right now for us. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, although it's not quite this warm anymore here, is I'll talk about when your water temperature is anywhere from 70 degrees to 65 degrees. So when you're looking at those temperatures, you're going to want to focus on things like buzz bait. So here's a couple examples of buzz bait as a frog and just a standard buzz bait there. You're going to want to look at top water. So top water here, I have a Chopo, Chugger Spook, a Chuggin Spook. These are just examples. Of course, there's lots of other top water hula poppers. The next thing you want to look at is jerk baits. So here's just three examples of some jerk baits I have here. And then swim bait is another good option. And you can take your swim bait, you can rig it up on a shaky head, which is what I really like to do. Or you can Texas rig it with an offset hook like this. So those are options. Another option in your water temp 70 to 65 is vibrating jigs or chatter baits. Some people call them, it's kind of a bladed jig. I think those are the three names people use for them. So there's one with a trailer and one without a trailer there, but really just the same thing. Next thing you can use is a swim jig. Swim jigs work good in that temperature. That one's got a crawler trailer on it. And frogs. Frogs are a good option. They've kind of been hit or miss for me. I need more practice with them, but they're definitely, that's the right temperature to be throwing those. Everything I've talked about to this point that's talking about clear water. If you have muddy water, you're going to want to stick to something like the swim jig, the top water here, a spinner bait is a good option there, or just any other kind of jig would work in a muddy water in 70 to 65 degrees. So now let's talk about when it drops down a little bit, and so now you're in the 65 to 55 range. Jerk baits are still in play in that range. The swim bait is still in play. Top water is still good. Your jig's still good. Chatterbait or bladed jig or whatever you want to call that. Those are still good. Vibrating jig, the other name. And spinnerbait again. So those are the lures that you want to look at in clear water, 65 to 55. Muddy water, top water is still in play. Your spinner baits are still in play. And jigs are still in play. I'm sorry, yeah, jigs are still in play. And also you can look at the square bills. So square bill crankbaits are good in muddy water between 65 and 55. All right, so now let's take it down to 55 to 50 degrees. So now your jerk baits are still in play. Now you bring in a lipless crankbait. That's good. And a shallow crankbait. So these smaller ones that don't dive down quite as deep, still a square bill. Chatterbait or your bladed jig. So spinner baits are still in play, but what you want to do in these colder temperatures is really slow it down. You want to slow roll those spinner baits. The next thing you want is the jig. That's still good. Swim bait is still in play. And then you're going to bring in something called a blade bait. Now this is one that I just really discovered last year. I know probably some of you have been using them, but this is a great little bait. And you can use that. You'll use this one for the rest of the fishing season until that water freezes over. Uh, and then that's clear water. And then in muddy water, in 55 to 50, again, you're going to look at that shallow crankbait, the lipless crankbait, the jig, the spinner bait, and the vibrating jig. Okay, so now we're getting down to it. 50 to 40 degrees clear water. You're talking about spoons. This is a flutter spoon, jigging spoon, jerk baits, swim baits, finesse crankbaits, or these smaller shallow diving crankbaits. The blade bait is still in. And then in muddy water, you're going to look at maybe a flat-sided crankbait. You're going to still look at those lipless crankbaits, the chatterbaits, vibrating jig, whatever you want to call them, and the spinner baits. Now let's drop it down. If you're like me, you fish until that water freezes over. So we're talking 40 to 32. So spoons are still in. The blade bait is still in. Swim bait is still in. And then you're gonna use something smaller, a finesse jig. So the small jigs. And that's in clear water again. And then in muddy water, you're going to look at a slow roll spinner bait and a jig. And that's really how I break it down. I'm going to put a graphic up at the end of the video that shows all of this that I've talked about, so that you can see that. And I'd love to hear from you guys, what you think I missed, maybe, or maybe that shouldn't be in there. So hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.